Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, a podcast dedicated to destroying self-limitations and helping you achieve your dreams. If you don't know by now, my name's Brandon Davis. I'm the host of this show, and you may be wondering why it's been about a month and a half since I last produced an episode. And to be quite honest with you guys, my life was going through a very hectic stage where I told myself as I was kind of getting through those final waves, I was going to finish recording for a couple episodes. I recorded in advance, and as soon as I finished out on those episodes, I'd give myself about a month to 2 months to reestablish everything so I could kind of get my life back in order and produce content that was actually worthy for you guys to be listening to. I'm never trying to just put out stuff just to put it out. I want it to be beneficial, so once again, we can destroy those self-limitations and live the best life that's possible for us. So you may be wondering, Brandon, what the heck were you doing in the past month and a half? And to be quite honest with you, it's been a lot. So I was finishing up a semester at school. If you've been listening for the past year and a half now of this show, you know I'm a college student out in Utah. I go to Brigham Young University, studying entrepreneurship out there. I guess a couple life updates. I got into the entrepreneurship program just a couple weeks ago. So I'm super excited to be pursuing my dreams of becoming a full-time entrepreneur and business owner and help people find their own ways to success in life. I'm pursuing that like heavy right now. Further updates. So I was finishing up school literally a week later, a week after I finished my semester. I got married to my beautiful bride, Bryn. She's officially Bryn Davis now, which is super exciting for the both of us. And it's just between school, getting married a week later, and then to kind of put the cherry on top of everything, me and her, for my job this summer, we moved out to Orlando, Florida. So we've been living here since May. We drove from Utah straight out to Orlando, hopped in the car the night of our wedding, believe it or not, and we drove out to Florida. And then from here, we hung out a couple days. I worked for a little bit, and then we took our honeymoon. I came back. I've been working all summer ever since. And it's been busy, guys. It's, I guess, just for a couple other life updates, it's been interesting adjusting to marriage. It's been some of the most hectic time of my life, but also some of the most blessed, and I wouldn't change it for anything. And I think that's kind of how life goes. Sometimes we get through these little chaotic points, and not gonna lie, it feels good to kind of be settling a little bit. In about 2 weeks, I'm moving back to Utah. My job's finishing up for the summer, and I'm gonna get back into the full swing of school and just kind of doing the podcast a little bit more, getting on that regular schedule once again. And I'm excited to fully live that married life. It feels like the summer, it's been very go, go, go. I'm working 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. most nights. And so I'm excited to spend a little extra time with my wife, especially as we just got married. So as you can understand, I have been a little bit lacking on the podcasting side, but once again, I don't want to produce an episode solely just to produce it, but I want to make sure it's worth your time in listening. And guys, with that being said, I'm super excited to announce today's episode of the podcast because it's something that I have been needing this summer as I've been working 9 to 9 every single day. And the big concept we're going to be talking about today is seeing past your goals. Guys, I have a lot of content and real life application I want to be sharing with you in today's episode. If you enjoy it, make sure to share it with a friend. And with that all being said, let's jump into today's episode. Wow, it feels good to hear that introduction again and my little intro music there. I sure missed it. I hope you guys did too. Once again, we're going to be getting back on the same schedule. Expect all the episodes to be produced at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time every single Friday once again. But guys, as I mentioned in the intro, this summer has been pretty crazy. I've had a lot of stuff going on, and to say the least, I'm excited just to kind of get back in the rhythm of things. But as I've been working out here in Orlando, Florida, as many of you know, I work on a sales team. And so we travel around every summer and we sell. That's my job. I'm a salesman. And so every single summer, I have a lot of different goals I need to check off. There's certain goals I want to hit via my revenue that I need to sell for the company, for personal goals of how many people I talk to every day, how many deals I close every day, how many opportunities I have to close a deal, how I can help be a better leader on my team. And there's just kind of these different checked box goals I want to accomplish every single day. And a lot of times that can be a little bit easy when I'm just getting through the motions of everything. I wake up, like I mentioned, I'm at work at 9, and then I'm usually finishing work around 8:30, 9 p.m. most days. And so I get in the same rhythm and the same routine of doing this day in and day out. So in some ways, my goals are very easy to track. It's wake up, go to work, make sure I talk to X amount of people, make sure I make X amount of sales, make sure I perform my standards for my team in X amount of ways and help as many people as I can. These goals are super measurable. I can measure them down to the minute detail of how many people I talked to, how long those conversations were, where I stumbled on how I could have sold somebody when I didn't necessarily have that chance, say, a few months ago. I can track these little details. So first things first, on today's episode, I want to make sure when you guys are setting goals, that you're setting goals that are measurable. Sometimes it's very simple to sit back when you're going through that whole planning stage inside of your life. You're going through that stage where you're like, okay, I recognize, for example, maybe I recognize I need to go to the gym, but I'm going to set these crazy astronomical goals that I can't necessarily measure. And so it's going to be very difficult for me. So for example, if you guys have been there, I know I have in my past, but it's the simple facts of I need to go to the gym because I want to lose 50 pounds. So maybe one of your measurable goals is losing that 50 pounds, but how are you actually going to start losing that weight? Are you going to set like a daily routine of, okay, I'm going to go to the gym at 8 a.m. every single day. I'm going to go to the gym 8 a.m. And then on Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm going to do Monday, it's leg day. Tuesday, it's chest day. Break on Wednesday. Thursday, it's push day. Whatever, you set these literal measurable goals. But sometimes I feel like we can really get ahead of ourselves. We set aside the time to really ponder out what we're going to do for our goal, whatever we're trying to accomplish in our lives. But then we don't actually give the amount of time necessary to prepare for it. We kind of just jump straight into it. And sometimes that can be useful. It can be very helpful if you're somebody who likes to procrastinate and you're kind of a dreamer and you don't necessarily do all the things you always promise yourself you're going to do. Sometimes you do need to jump into it, but I want to make sure we're actually setting these measurable goals, these goals that aren't so far-fetched that we can't actually accomplish them. So once again, going back to that gym example, maybe it's no longer I need to lose 50 pounds. That might be the overarching goal. I want to lose 50 pounds, but maybe you take it a step back and you say, this week, I want to start going to the gym. That's your base layer right there. That's your goal this week. I'm going to go on Monday, Tuesday, have a break on Wednesday, then Thursday and Friday, then I got the weekend. Boom, 4 times. That's my goal this week. Boom, you accomplish it. What happens next week? Next week, my goal is to start getting proper form down while working out. I'm going to make sure I have the proper form. I'm hitting every exercise I need to hit on my list, and I'm going to make sure I'm doing them appropriately. Boom. That's your goal that's your measurable goal for week 2. Jumping into week 3, that's when we could start diving into, okay, I kind of got the rhythm down. This is when I'm going to the gym. This is when, these are the workouts I'm doing. I know kind of what the process is at this point. So then week 3, I'm going to say my goal for week 3 is losing 5 pounds. I'm going to go on the treadmill for 30 minutes. I'm going to do a core exercise for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to go sit in the sauna for 10 minutes. And that's going to be my first step to losing 50 pounds. And you notice the difference between saying solely, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to lose 50 pounds to comparatively to, I'm going to measure these goals and I'm going to shorten that overarching goal, this big picture, into small bite-sized pieces. These little pieces that I could chew and nibble on and kind of adjust myself to this grand 10-course buffet of losing 50 pounds overall. I'm going to take these bite-sized pieces and make sure I can finish the entire course of the meal. Because what happens when we dream big, we say, I'm going to lose these 50 pounds. And then what happens over time? The gym starts getting really tough to go to. We stop getting up in the morning to go. We end up saying, oh, I'll have an extra rest day here, an extra rest day there. And we just start losing our focus a little bit more. And then pretty soon we stop going altogether. So if we can set aside these big picture dreams, I'm not saying to stop dreaming big. I am saying, though, we need to lower and take a step back for a minute and say, am I actually going to be able to accomplish that goal? And if so, how do I get there? What are my steps? What is the measurable steps to get to said goal? So that's part 1 I want to talk about here. Now, what are some of the biggest enemies when it comes to setting these realistic goals, these big overarching themes inside of our lives that can kind of be difficult to achieve, but once we do, we just end up loving ourselves. We're super excited we were able to accomplish something so difficult. There's obviously setbacks between our own mental state, the world conditions that are thrown at us, and just life in general. There's always something going on. And this is why I wanted to be breaking it down with the concept in mind of seeing past your goal, seeing past this bigger picture, seeing past these small little details, but actually seeing past your goal and picturing yourself being able to achieve it. But one of the biggest enemies in that entire theory is complacency. I want to take this back to the gym example, and then I'm going to relate it to my personal life. Complacency in the gym could be very specific. Let's say you did a very good job measuring your goals. You said, week one, once again, I'm going to set out my workout routine. I'm going to make sure I'm at least going to the gym. Week two, I set out exactly the proper form and which days I want to work out and exactly how I want to work out. Week three, it was starting to actually chase that dream of losing 50 pounds, right? You set these measurable goals, but what happens in week 4, week 5, week 6? Maybe week 4 and 5, you lost a couple pounds, you're super excited, but then boom, week 6 hits and you didn't lose any weight. Or even on the contrary, maybe you gained a couple pounds. You start freaking out in your head and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? It worked for me in the past, but it's not working right now. What do I need to do differently? Well, I could promise you one thing. 99% of humans on this earth will see that shortcoming. They're going to say, I lost 5 pounds and now I lost nothing this week. And they're going to quit. They're going to get complacent. They're going to say at the very end of the day, well, I guess I did lose 5 pounds. That's better than nothing. I lost 5 pounds. My goal is 50, but hey, I lost 5 pounds. I'll take it good for there. I accomplished something. Oh, there's nothing that irks me more when somebody says I accomplished something. Sure, is that a good thing? I guess so. But why are you selling yourself short? Keep pushing yourself. Get to that entire 50. Stop becoming complacent with yourself. And like I mentioned, I want to relate this back to myself. At the beginning of the summer, I had a very set goal on how much revenue I wanted to produce for my company. As a salesman, once again, my goals are very measurable. I know to the minute detail of everything I need to accomplish. And I am setting aside myself, my time, and everything in my power to make sure I hit those daily goals. Complacency has been a factor though. At some point in the day, I see, okay, I'm actually doing better than I set aside my goal for. Maybe my goal that day was to get four sales, close 4 deals. And I ended up maybe around 6 p.m. when I normally get off, like I mentioned, at 8:30 or 9 p.m. Maybe at 6 p.m., I had already accomplished that. I got 4 deals closed that day. So what kind of complacency can I see inside of my life? The simple fact of, oh, I already accomplished my goal for the day. I'm going to call it quits and go home early. I'm going to get a 2 extra hour day today. No, that's where you become complacent. You need to keep pushing yourself. Once you hit that 50 pounds, go for 60 pounds of lost weight. Make sure you're pushing yourself so you don't gain all that weight back. I want to keep pushing myself so I can get more sales. I don't want to keep stopping solely because I got complacent inside of my own life. And I think kind of the next step towards complacency is reasoning. You get complacent, once again, going back to my personal life, I might get complacent by knowing I accomplished my goal for the day. I can call it quits now. I can get complacent on that same atmosphere, but one thing that comes with a little bit more hesitancy, what kind of pushes us back a little bit inside of our own brains, is reasoning. You reason with yourself that I did really good today. I can call it quits now. Or going back to that gym example, I've been doing really good on my diet so far. I've been eating healthy. I've been going to the gym. Let me just cheat myself a little bit. I'm going to go out and eat for this meal. And I'm not necessarily saying that those are bad things. Like, obviously you want to enjoy life and you want to have a good time. Maybe I wanted the extra 2 hours to go hang out with my wife a little bit extra that day. But don't let it become the sole driving factor inside of your life where you start reasoning with yourself each and every day that it's okay to sell yourself short. Sure, I might have hit my goal of closing those 4 deals, but am I reasoning with myself saying, I did that, so now I'm going to go ahead and call it quits early? Or am I going to push myself to another level and say, I already closed the 4. Let's go for 5. Let's go for 6. Let's go for 10 today. I'm killing it today. Let's go for 10. Or am I starting to reason with myself and say, oh man, I've talked to so many people today, but they're just being so rude to me. I can't get a word out. I can't close any deals today. Or am I going to take a self-reflection, kind of own up to it, get over myself, as some would say, right? And reflect and say, I'm not going to reason with myself. I'm going to actually go out and do what my goal, my measurable goal was. I'm going to see past those goals and I'm going to picture that brighter future. Because I promise you, in the moment of whatever you're trying to achieve, it's going to be very awesome when you're dreaming it up, when you're laying in your bed at night and you're dreaming up that big goal. But then when you're in the trenches, when you're actually trying to accomplish it, it's going to be very difficult to get it done. And that's when you start reasoning with yourself and saying, well, I set the goal for 50 pounds, but maybe I want to drop it down to 30 pounds. I set the goal to close 4 deals today, but man, I already finished it. It's 6 o'clock. I'm gonna call it quits. I'm gonna cheat myself on the time I owe. Or even worse, close 2 deals today. My goal was 4, but I'm not talking to anyone. Nobody's home right now. I can't find anybody who would want this service. I'm gonna call it quits. Stop reasoning with yourself in a negative form. And I think one of the last steps that kind of encompasses this entire idea of seeing past our goals and just going after this big picture, but once again, breaking it down into measurable bite-sized pieces, it's your terminating effort. So you set that big dream, you saw past your goals, you set that big dream in front of you, you broke it down into those measurable pieces, but then maybe once you set those measurable pieces, you got complacent, you started reasoning with yourself that it's somebody else's fault, you're not the one to blame, yada, yada. For some reason, you can't accomplish your goal because of X, Y, or Z, other outlying circumstances. Your terminating effort is what's going to determine if you are able to keep pushing yourself, get over yourself, or you're going to call it quits like most people do, because that's the easier option. Your terminating effort, I use this terminology because it's the moment in time when you set your goal, if you're actually going to set out and do it. It's that moment when, once again, you're in the trenches, you reason with yourself saying, I can quit right now and nobody would blame me. All these crazy things have been happening to me, so why don't I deserve to quit right now? You're reasoning with yourself, and it's that moment, it's that terminating factor. It's that moment where that terminating effort, it just goes out in front of you, and you say, you know what? I quit. Or on the opposite side, you know what? I told myself I was going to do it. I'm giving my full force effort on this. Whether I hit my goal or not, I'm going to try. And that's what I want us to focus on. That's why we create these measurable bite-sized pieces of goals. We have the big picture. That's what we want to see ourselves going towards. But once it gets a little bit tougher, we have that moment inside of our head after we've got a little bit more complacent, we've reasoned with ourselves. We have that terminating moment where we say, am I actually going to be able to do this? And you can push yourself one step further and say, yes, I can. Or you can, boom, cut it off right then and there and call it quits like almost everybody does. So to close out today's episode, now we have those kind of that step-by-step process of seeing past your goal. You wanted to accomplish something. You made it through the effort of actually planning appropriately to make sure you get it done. You went through the tough moment where it may have been tiring. You may have been exhausted. You didn't want to do it anymore. You started reasoning with yourself saying, maybe I don't even want to accomplish this anymore. Maybe this goal isn't so good for me anymore. But then you hit that terminating effort. You hit that moment where you were saying, I am going to do this. Or maybe in the past, you've had that moment where you planned it out, you did all these steps, and then at that terminating effort, that moment when you're saying, no, actually, I quit. And you did quit. I think every single human's done that at some point or another. But remember, when you're setting these goals, when you're seeing past them, you're not just picturing what it feels like at the finish line, but you're picturing what it feels like 5 years down the road. Why am I working so hard today? It's because tomorrow it's going to feel good, but 5 years down the road, it's going to feel great. Can you picture the person you're going to become if you can create these little daily bite-sized pieces, these measurable goals? Right now, it's going to make a small impact in your life. Going back to that gym example, you may lose that 5 pounds on week 3. You may lose 5 pounds on week 10. Eventually, you might lose, all 50 pounds that you wanted to. But if you can't see past your goal, that was your original goal, is lose the 50 pounds. But let's see past it. At that point, when I lose my 50 pounds, am I going to say, perfect, I did it? Calling it quits on fitness now, and then gain all the weight back? Or am I going to see past my goal and say, I accomplished what I wanted to, planned out my measurable bite-sized pieces towards the goal. I got past the complacency and the reasoning and that terminating moment, that effort inside of my head. I got past all that and I hit my goal. I lost that 50 pounds. Okay, perfect. I'm done now. No, you keep striving for a little bit more. Maybe lose a little bit more weight. Maybe it's just simply creating that healthy lifestyle you want to live. But overall, you don't go back to who you were. We're improving little by little each and every day. And that's why you want to see past your goals. Because it's one thing to accomplish it, but it's one thing 5 years down the road to picture, hey, I did that hard thing and now my life is great because I did so. Guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast. It felt really good to get back in the studio. And I guess if you're watching in video format right now, you know I'm not in my typical studio. I'm actually living in a hotel room all summer long. So in about 3 weeks, when I get back to my studio officially, I'm going to be excited to have everything set up and just get back into that normal form. But I appreciate you guys for sticking it out with me this summer, and I hope you enjoyed our first episode back. If you did, make sure to send it to somebody who you think could benefit from hearing my words today. Also, give me a message on social media. That'll be linked in the description of the episode. If you want to leave any feedback or get in contact with me for whatever reason, once again, that'll be in the description below. But guys, thanks so much, and just remember, it'll all be okay. Just take a step back and keep seeing past your goals.